Hello and welcome back. This is the 15th video in the Flow Certified Professional Online Training. And this section is so big, I've split it into a couple of parts, Part A and Part B. So we're going to look at VSPT, the one thing, and cascading vision and what that's all about. And you can see in the picture here a little bit of the idea that we're talking about, in that we need to cascade the VSPT through every level in the organization, and that they speak a couple of different languages. And it gets more complicated than that. And you all know this, you're already working with it. But it helps to see it sort of pulled apart into the different pieces so that you can more effectively lead your teams and your product development as well as your organization. So the leadership takeaways are going to be the dominoes metaphor. That video is included in the videos here for the training, so you can watch that one separately. You might want to pause, hop out, go take a look at that one, and then come back in so that you get the idea of what we're talking about. And then in this section, we're going to talk about cascading vision, VSPT, the one thing, and the link back. Here's the link to the dominoes as a metaphor for change. And this is one of the visuals we use in cascading vision to bring to life the concept that a small feedback from deep in the organization can have almost an exponential impact further up the food chain. And we're going to see that the next slide. And both this video and the other video that I include about Jamie and his political battles, they're included in the playlist both on YouTube as well as in the FCP course. Here's the idea. When you start with a little domino, it's a geometric progression, and you can start with this small little wafer piece of domino. And if you begin with a 2-inch domino and increase it in size and mass by 50%, by the time you go through that, it's an exponential progression. And at the 19th domino, it's taller than the Leaning Tower of Pisa. And so you don't have to get very far out from that initial impact. And what's really cool in the video that you probably just looked at, you'll see that that little piece knocked over like a 100-kilo block or 200-kilo block at the end, as it was just going, and each successive piece gets bigger, but it keeps knocking it down. So it doesn't take a ton of force at the beginning to have an exponential impact further down the food chain. And so this is sort of the idea that we have. The idea of the one thing comes from a real estate agent in New York City that built one of the biggest real estate agencies in the United States. And he would every year try to come up with, what's the one thing, if I did this one thing consistently throughout the year, that it would have an exponential impact on my business. And he would start with 25 items in his list. And then in the first cut, he would take it down to 5. And then he would let it sit for a day. And out of those 5, he would choose the one thing. And that was the one thing that he would go after. And he taught all his employees to do the one thing. And they grew their company by not just hundreds of percent, but by thousands of percents. And so you want to cascade the idea of the one thing. As the executive, what's that one thing that it's sort of the dominoes heading down the organization? Hopefully it doesn't get crushed. And so you have the executive, vision, strategy, people, and tasks. And we need to cascade that to senior management, and every one of them is going to have a VSPT. Well, they need to cascade that down to their program level or however they're organized, And senior management also might be portfolio level. Okay, if you're doing portfolio program project management, that succession. And you're going to have a program VSPT and a project VSPT, a team, and right down to an individual VSPT like we talked in the previous slide. Now, here's the one thing that companies don't do is that they don't link it back. They just sort of expect that it goes down. But in the next video, we're going to talk about dilution and show why things just go into gridlock, okay? But in this video right now, we're going to look at it and just go, most companies, they don't do the link back. If you did nothing other than linking back your personal VSPT back to the team VSPT, you've already taken one step closer to being able to get that team to step into flow. Michael Jordan did that. When he first joined the Bulls, they weren't winning. And so they went ahead and Phil Jackson said, "Hey, Michael, have you had dinner with any of your teammates?" And he's like, "No, why would I do that?" And so Phil Jackson, coached Michael on and mentored him on it's not enough to have the professional relationship on the basketball court. You need to take it out into real life, and that's how you build the team. And so if you can link back your VSPT to the team's VSPT and everybody on the team does that, you just created one of the conditions that will help the entire team step into flow. And after Michael Jordan did that, all of a sudden they started winning. So it's pretty amazing how something so simple can work. And then the team needs to link back to project. And if they're not doing that and you've got program development instead, then you as the team need to link to the program managers. It's okay, you just take that layer out. It's not a problem. And as you link back, that will help the executives understand that, okay, they got it. All right. And then the teams and the individuals, but primarily the teams, they need to come up with, if the executives did this one thing for us, it would have this exponential effect. Now, it's got to be one thing, because if an executive has 100 teams in his organization and he gets 101 things, how many of those are actually, you think, going to happen? Okay, so it needs to be something that is significant enough that the team's going to send it back up the food chain as a product backlog item for the senior management to deal with. So if the executive gets 100, maybe a senior manager gets 10 items. Well, it suddenly becomes manageable, or the program manager might get 2 or 3. Now all of a sudden those are things that they can actually address and actually work with, and it will actually make a difference to the organization. So the recap for this one is that you've got the dominoes as the metaphor. You need to cascade vision throughout the organization, and that's the VSPT, the one thing, and then link it back, okay? The application of this, how you take it out of the book, put it in the real world, the right cascade, link back and feedback to the leadership from the team. How are you going to do that? Okay. So the thing here and the trick is the power of the one thing is bi-directional. It's a two-way street. And if you can get that communication flowing correctly, that's going to create the conditions where your team is going to be able to step into flow with the full knowledge that they've got the support and backing of their leadership, and that they're going to actually be able to succeed.